There is a peace agreement tonight in Ukraine, but it came at the cost of at least 77 dead and hundreds more injured. After days of riots, President Yanukovych gave in. Today, in a deal with leaders of the opposition, he agreed to early presidential elections no later than December. Then, in rapid sequence, Ukraine's parliament fired the interior minister, blamed for much of the violence, curbed the powers of the president, and voted to release the president's chief political rival from prison. It's all about the future of Ukraine, whether it will be tied to Russia as the president wanted or to Western Europe as the protesters demanded. And CBS News correspondent Holly Williams is in Kiev, down among the protesters' barricades. Holly?
Scott, despite the concessions made today by President Viktor Yanukovych, including an amnesty for protesters, none of it was enough for the demonstrators who have occupied the streets here in the center of Ukraine's capital. On Kiev's Independence Square, they built new barricades today. They'll set the tires on fire if Ukraine's riot police try again to force them off the streets. What started out as a peaceful anti-government protest 3 months ago has become a deadly struggle for power. The demonstrators are ill-equipped. Many look ready for a medieval battle. But after a week of bloodshed, they're more determined than ever. They've now been joined by a group of policemen from Western Ukraine who came to Kiev this morning to help in the struggle against the government. I'm not just a man with a badge, said this young policeman. I took an oath of loyalty to this country's people. Ukraine's president made more concessions to the protesters today, but here on Independence Square they are adamant they won't leave until the president is removed from power. And for some protesters, even that won't be enough. Alim Solodky is a junior executive who told us President Yanukovych should be punished. What would it take for you to leave the square?
The president will be arrested.
You want the president to be arrested?
Yes. Most of people leave the square if it happened. And we will celebrate the great victory of Ukraine. Maybe after this interview I can be arrested, but I don't scare anymore.
Scores of people have been killed on Independence Square this week. The protesters are mourning them and are resolved to fight on.
Now, Holly, the opposition leaders have signed off on this deal with the government, but the protesters aren't leaving the square. Why's that?
Well, Scott, they came to the square tonight to explain the deal they reached with the president, and they were booed by the crowd. The protesters here come from all walks of life. Some of them are left-wing, some of them are right-wing. All they really have in common is their hatred for President Yanukovych, and they certainly don't follow the orders of any of Ukraine's opposition leaders.
Still far to go on this story. Holly, thank you very much.